with Uncommon Women Podcast, a dope podcast to bring light to reality from real life people sharing real life stories with a host of women having real life talk, the good and the bad, with no judgment. Uncommon Women's Loyalty is here to support those that need a safe space to speak their truth and rawness to the world. Tune in, relax, take notes, and let's vibe. Here are your hosts, Uncommon Women.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to Uncommon Women. I am Shanira, and I am super excited about the guest speaker that I'm about to bring on the platform in just a moment. She is phenomenal, life-changing, and more than anything that you can ever think about from a person that's been through what she's been through in life. But before I get into all the details, because she's going to come on and share her testimony, I wanted to let you know a little bit about Seleda. She's a mother of 3 from Reading, PA. She grew up in the streets, and after being given up by her mother and living in the system, facing violence and hardship, she decided to change her life. She changed her life when she became a mother. And with doing that, she was passionate in being an advocate for mental health. She funded a nonprofit called The Real Deal to help those in need. And she is also dedicated to supporting others with similar stories, inspiring them to become their greatest selves and speaking the truth from her story. So first and foremost, thank you, Seleda, for coming on Uncommon Women today. How are you doing this evening?
I am blessed and highly favored, and thank you for having me on such a phenomenal platform. I'm great. How about you?
I'm doing good. I can't complain. It's pre-Friday, pre-Friday. So the weekend is going to be here before I know it, and I'm super excited about what's in store for the weekend. First and foremost, thank you for being able to start The Real Deal. I think, listening to your story and hearing your testament in regards to what you've been through in life and transitioning into The Real Deal, which we'll get to in a little bit, is phenomenal. It's definitely phenomenal. And I thank you for being that vessel to the children in need with the nonprofit.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Before we get into the journey of where you're at today, can you share some of your earliest memories, growing up in Reading, and what was life like being raised by a single parent in a family of 5?
Wow. So, growing up in Reading was absolutely one of the main reasons why I have the tenacity and the passion that I have now. Before my journey started as a little girl, there was always a sense of togetherness. I'm the second oldest of 5. We're a lot of years apart, except for me and my older sister. So for a long time, it was just me and my older sister and my mother. But it was always a sense of family. I'm African-American, growing up in a Black home. Every holiday you coming together. If you're hungry, the neighbor's going to get you. If you're disrespectful, they're going to get you. A lot of times until somebody tells you something was wrong, right, you don't know it, and everything just seems, normal. So my early childhood was just, if I could categorize it as anything, was just filled with togetherness.
Mm-hmm. Now, you being, closer to your older sibling, did you guys have a better relationship than your other siblings?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. My older sister absolutely hated everything about me, and she let that be known every opportunity she got. And I mean that literally. I don't even mean that jokingly. And I think now that we're older and we had that conversation, it's understandable, how she came to that. Your parents are a product of sometimes of what they learn. So how they raise you sometimes is, what they've learned. And I think a lot of times, when me and my older sister were younger, my mom would, take turns with us. One day I was the favorite. The next day she was. I don't think it was an intentional thing. I think it more was a generational thing. But, my sister used to try to pay people to fight me. She hated my guts. I can tell you the very day that I first ever heard my sister tell me that she loves me. And again, her reasons are her reasons. We have a phenomenal relationship now. But I always felt like I just wanted to make her proud of me and happy. You know what I mean? Yes, I had a togetherness relationship, but my mother didn't play when it came to discipline. And again, what she was shown and what happened to her is what she gave us. So, you know, when it came to them behind whoopings, we got the extension cords. You know, we got the real deal. My mom didn't play. So I really just remember always wanting my sister to feel like I love her so she could love me. You know what I mean? And you know, it just didn't work out that way, but it was all for a purpose. And our relationship is solid as rock.
Wow. You mentioned you at a young age, you know, tried to get some type of peace with your sister so that she could love you. What emotions did you go through knowing that, you know, she didn't love you as much as you loved her at a young age?
I can honestly say, to be honest with you, no emotions that affected me to the point where it interfered with me being a kid, because I wasn't aware of those emotions. You know, I know I didn't like it, but it wasn't something that I pondered on or stopped me from, you know, being a kid. You know what I'm saying? Until I fully understood, Dad, you really don't like me. And that probably wasn't until close to my early teens where I really realized that. But, you know, when we were kids, we were kids. You know what I'm saying? It was, I knew she couldn't stand me. You know, I knew that every time I came around her, I made her sick to her stomach because she let me know. But it was more so of I'm the little sister, she's the big sister in my head, you know, until we got to a place of us understanding and really realizing what was going on around us that was causing these different type of emotions to happen. But again, like we said earlier, there a lot of things that went on in my life, I didn't know they were wrong until somebody said they were wrong, because that was my culture. You know, that's the environment I grew up in.
That's true. A lot of, not even just your situation, but sometimes we don't know that we're in toxic or unhealthy situations until we see something in a positive light.
Absolutely.
Did your family
I didn't even know that we were being physically abused, you know, child abuse. You know, that was just discipline. That's how discipline happens. It wasn't something where I'm like, oh my God, my mother is abusing me. And no, it was, I did something wrong and I got my behind whooped. And that's how I got my behind whooped. Yeah.
And like you said, that's just generational curses of what they learned. They are only doing what they were taught. Because I went through the same thing, you know, and sometimes I ain't gonna lie, my parents gave me an option: you want this beating or you want to be on punishment.
I know. Well, I got both. You never got a beating without being on punishment.
Right. I'm gonna take the beating because that's only gonna sting for a little matter of time, and then I can get back to doing what I want to do. So I get it. Yeah. I get it. But honestly, not to say abuses, it's certain levels to beatings, but I feel like it did shape me into a better person that I knew I wouldn't do something again.
Listen. I am at the age that I am. You can't pay me to disrespect somebody older than me. I was taught that you respect your elders. You speak when you're spoken to.
Come on.
If I'm on the phone, don't come talk to me. And when you walk into somebody's house, you give them the utmost respect. You speak to them. And that shaped a lot of my decision making, even when I was in certain positions, right? It was just so embedded in me that it came natural. So it prevented some things from happening when I was exposed to so much. And I do the very same thing with my children. I don't whoop their behind like that. But when it comes to that moral capacity and how they should conduct themselves outside my home and around people, I definitely implement it. I think that more parents should have done that now. Maybe we wouldn't be in some of the predicaments that we're in when it comes to our youth and what they're going through.
I agree. I totally agree. How did, you know, being raised by a single woman, raising 5 children, how did your family situation shape you as a child? Like, what challenges did you face growing up?
I was born without my father. Like, I didn't have him and then lose him. I heard stories about him. You know what I mean? My mother would tell me certain stories about him. My sister's father wasn't around, right? So it's like I didn't see her with her dad, and then I'm jealous, wondering why I had one. We both didn't have our fathers around. But I know I wanted to meet him. So when I was about 9 years old, my mother came to my grandmother's house and asked me if I wanted to meet my father. And I'm jumping up and down like, absolutely, yes. So she takes me to a bar, and my father's in a bar sitting there, and he's inebriated, pissy drunk. And, you know, she's like, hey, that's your dad. And I think because of that first engagement and how much he was, you know, inebriated, I can't really remember being excited anymore about that. But our next engagement was absolutely disappointing. It was absolutely disappointing, but it didn't stop me from being curious about him. My father felt like it was necessary to let me know that I definitely was made out of a mistake. And I will never forget that, ever forget that. So that was the first person that really let me know that I wasn't wanted. You know, my sister, I beefed with her. You know, we had our issues, but we were in the same home. You know, again, it wasn't to the point where I felt like, oh my God, she doesn't want me around. I knew she didn't, but it didn't affect me emotionally like it did when my father made sure he let me know that I was made out of a mistake.
Yeah. How old were you at that time?
I was 9 going on 10. Yeah. Yeah, I was 9 going on 10. My mother was a hustler. You know what I'm saying? Like she was always running the streets. And I don't mean running the streets like neglecting us. When it was me and my older sister, we didn't want for anything.
Okay.
You know, we had things. You know, my mom has always been a beautiful lady. She, you know, she's popular. She knows everybody. She works in the bar. You know, all her boyfriends are drug dealers, and we knew that. So, you know, sometimes we would encounter certain things where one of her boyfriends owed somebody money. They would come and just tear the whole house up while we're not there. Or she had a boyfriend that was obsessed with her and was threatening to kill her. You know what I mean? But again, at that time, as traumatic as it sounds, I still don't remember feeling at that time a part of me feeling like I wish I was somewhere else. I wish something else was happening, because I absolutely am in love with my mother. And I've been that way since the first day. I used to walk behind her just so men wouldn't look at her. Like I was obsessed with her. But, you know, as life started happening, it started happening to her as well. And I think as kids, we forget that. And not so much forget, because I don't think we have to know it, but we don't realize how much our parents were actually human beings. And that's it, before they were our parents. All we know is you're my mom and you're supposed to. And because you didn't, this is how I feel. You know, we don't understand that there's things that take place in life, whether they're parents or not, that interject with their ability to do what's right. And that's a human thing. And if they don't have the necessary tools to navigate through that, then, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a failure. And in the Black culture, the only tools that were necessary was self-medicate or go to church. You know, mental health only became a thing for us as a culture in the past 15 years. And we still have a stigma. We're still going through a lot of stuff, but it's there. You have more people taking advantage of it, but the availability is not as convenient as it is for others, you know, for very different reasons, whether it's medical insurance or whatever, but it's not as available. And people don't take us as serious. You know, Jimmy or little Bobby can be stressed or depressed, but Derek or Sam is ghetto and is a bad child, and they don't have a home life. And this is without no information about them, right? And they're going through the same things, but they're going to be looked at completely different. I don't know if that'll ever change, but I know that that is a thing that interferes with, you know, a lot of progress when it comes to us as a Black culture.
I think we also fail to realize, or just not the knowledge of it as a young child, that, you know, being a parent, it doesn't come with a manual. So we're going to go through some trials and errors just to try to figure out what works and what doesn't work, you know?
What doesn't work.
Right.
And the hardest thing about being a parent is making decisions.
Yes.
And making the right one. That is the toughest thing that you will encounter. And nobody else can tell you the right decision to make, because they're your children, it's your life, and you're going through it. Absolutely.
Right. That's right. And I can only imagine, you know, well, I'm a single mother, so I can imagine when you only have the last say on things. And you can get advice from people, but, you know, who's to say that their advice may work for their children, but may not work for yours? You know, beating didn't work for my son. It didn't work for my son. He was an emotional child, and I'm not going to get into all that, but I had to find an alternative, because that didn't work for my child. That worked for me, you know? I also feel like when we talk about mental health, I feel like a lot of us was in a position in our homes where they indebted in us that, you know, what goes on in this house, you don't talk about it to nobody.
What goes on up in this house stays up in this house.
Oh,
And I
right.
think that's for a lot of different reasons. I don't think it's just based on the fact that we don't want our business out, and I hate to say this, but this is the reality of it. Exposing what you're going through or what you're subjected to or your lack thereof as a Black human being can cost you a lot.
Come on.
Because not too many people are willing to understand. They're not willing to go back and say, okay, well, this probably happened because of X, Y, and Z. And let me offer you this and see if there's a difference. It doesn't come with that. It comes with judgment. It comes with penalties,
Assumptions.
assumptions. It comes with all the above. So I think it's not only what goes on in this house stays in this house, but I'm also fearful for anybody else outside of this house to know what's going on, because I don't know what you're going to do with that.
Right.
I don't know how you're going to handle me in my home with that. And because I don't believe or feel the same things you do, you might just very well think that you can come in my home and disrupt it. And usually they have the upper hand to do that.
It's the control. It's the control.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. But I think that, my mother did the best she could with what she had. And when life started life in her, because she's been through a lot of things before she became a mother. And I didn't know that, until later on in life. That's why I think it's so important for you to be vulnerable with your kids. They need to know your story. You don't got to go in depths. There's a time and place for everything. But in the same aspect, you need to allow them to understand just how human you are and how many mistakes you might make. And you need to be able to apologize to your kids too. They need to be able to trust that when you do something wrong, that you're going to recognize it and you're going to let it be known so that they can do that. Kids learn better by what they see and less by what they hear.
That's true. And you never know what you've been through as a parent that your child may go through as well. So
Absolutely.
that transparency can be a breakthrough for a child when they're experiencing something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say that I'm a firm believer in, before I go to anybody, and I have raised my children this way. It's crazy. Me and my son had this conversation this morning. I better be the second person you come to when you're facing something, not the first. The first person better be God, because he can do things that I can't come close to. Then you come to me. And I ask them all the time when they come to me with something, did you go pray on that? Did you go to God first? No, well then I don't know why you're talking to me, because I'm not the first, I'm the second. You don't belong to me. I'm the overseer. I'm trusted with that I'm that blessing. But at the end of the day, you belong to somebody else, and that's the person you need to go to. And you need to understand that he can do things that mommy can't. Mommy can't come with. He got connects. I got some connects. I make some happen, but he got the connects. So, it's very, very important to understand that. And as a kid as well, my grandfather was a pastor in church. My grandmother was a deacon. I was exposed to church. It wasn't something that was mandated by my mother, but I knew enough to know better.
Right.
I knew enough to know better and know that there was a God. I didn't really form a relationship with him till later on in my life, but I was always very acknowledgeable of he's the creator. He's the creator. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But, I try to make sure that I let my kids know that I'm not perfect. I'm going to make some mistakes. And I need you to work with me. We're a team.
I love that. Let's dive deeper in regards to, the relationship. We'll get into the relationship with your children, but let's dive into the relationship with your mother. I know you spoke about, your mother giving up her parental rights at the age of 15 and kicking you out. Do you know what led to that decision and how it affected you emotionally as well as mentally?
I absolutely do know that. I want to attribute some of it to the man that she was seeing at the time. One thing about, I know my family, the worst thing you can ever do is call your children the B word. Like if my mom ever said that, it was like, oh my God, I want to die. And at that time, it was just so much. I had just moved back from Florida, because one thing about my mom is she moved around a lot.
Okay.
I'm from the 6th Ward of Reading, but I have probably been to every elementary school in Reading. I've lived in Georgia with family. That wasn't the first time my mom gave me up. My mother gave me up when we were moving back from Georgia. And I'm thinking we're all moving back. And we stop at my great grandmother's house, and she says, hey, you're going to be going to your uncle's house in Florida. And I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean? There's not enough room in the car for you. Okay. So then I started living with my uncle. He's God-fearing, works at Disney World, makes a lot of money. We're in the suburbs, but my uncle tried to molest me. And when I told my mother, I didn't know at the time she didn't believe me, but I knew she didn't come for me.
Wow.
I knew she left me there. So I started acting out more. And I acted out so bad that I got kicked out of the house. And then I found out when I came back to Reading that, she really didn't believe me. But that was the first time she gave me up. Now I'm back, living with her. I'm a teenager. I'm 13 now. And I already have it in my head that it's just me because of certain events that took place before. You know what I mean? But I'm a mommy's girl, so I'm still at home. And then, she was dealing with a guy. She just was in another space that I wasn't familiar with, and I didn't know why. So, we got into it. My mother got to the point where she said, because I was a teenager, she wasn't going to beat me no more with an extension cord. She was going to fight me like I was somebody in the streets. And that she did. That she very well did. My mom's hands are very vicious. So I attempted to commit suicide. I did not attempt to commit suicide because I actually wanted to die. I actually wanted attention. I wanted her to feel sorry for me because the way she was treating me and being towards me, I just couldn't understand. I wanted that energy to change, and I wanted her to love me, make me feel like she loved me. So I tried to kill myself. I overdosed on Tylenol PM, but the thing about that is my sister found me and I was half unconscious, but I remember my mother saying, I'm not taking her to the hospital. She's grown enough to take pills. She can be grown enough to take herself to the hospital. Wow. And that was the end for me. That was the beginning of the end for me. My sister that didn't like me, right? That couldn't stand me, carried me on her back, clear across town to a hospital on the hill that's now a middle school. And took me to the hospital. So they had decided that not to take me from my mother, but that maybe we just needed some time apart. So I started staying with my aunt, an aunt of mine, my favorite aunt. She's the best in the world. And I used to call and ask my sister, can you ask mommy if I can come back home, tell her I'm sorry. I'll never act up again. I don't know what I did wrong, but I'll never do it again. And every time my mom would say no. Nope, she can't come back. Nope. And then I ran into a boy. 14 years old, I ran into a boy.
Wow.
So that was kind of like, okay, like at that time I was always a tomboy, but this boy, he's older. He likes me. I'm not getting attention over here. I definitely don't know what it is to get attention from my father. So he's giving me that attention. So I willingly told my aunt that I was leaving and I was going to go stay with him. And she said, okay. She did not stop me. She said, okay. She said, you're going right on ahead. Wow. So as me staying with him, one day I seen my mother. Running down the street for her life, just running. And at that time, I was really scared for her because I had started encountering physical abuse myself from the guy that I was dating. Wow. Hardcore. He would lock me in closets. Every other day you see me, I had a black and blue eye. So when I seen her, I seen myself running. He used to beat me out of my clothes in front of people. I'd be half naked. So I grab her. Mom, come stay with me because we got a little place that I stay. I got my little apartment. She comes, stays with me, and the next day I wake up, she's going. I don't know where she's at, and I hear a knock at the door. And it's children's services, children and youth. They come and get me. And they're like, yeah, your mom wants you locked up. And I'm like, my mom wants me locked up? What do you mean? She was just staying with me. Long story short, they wound up taking me to the detention center. And I had it in my head by any means necessary, I was going to leave. So we went on a trip in Philadelphia and I ran. I don't know where I was running, but I ran. The boy that I was dating came and got me, but little did I know he was in Philly with another girl. So he came and got me, come back to Reading. About 3 weeks later, I got caught and they took me to court. So I'm going to court and they're like, the judge said it so vividly, He's like, yeah, your mother She signed her rights over. She don't want nothing to do with you no more. And I'm just looking like confused. Like, my mom wouldn't do that. Not my mom. She can do a lot of things, but my mom ain't giving you me. You know what I'm saying? She's not giving you me. And they were dead serious. And they said, we're going to declare you emancipated minor. I still have the pink paper that says it. And I looked at them. And even though I didn't want to, I was confused on why I didn't go to foster care or something. Like, that was just another confirmation. Okay, my dad says I made out a mistake. I'm 15. My mother gives her rights over. And I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't a kid that was out stealing. And, I fought a lot. But I wasn't that kid that, you'll be like, oh, you're just a nuisance. I can't deal with you. I wasn't her. I was a normal 15-year-old kid. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, okay, my dad doesn't, lets me not make a mistake. My mother don't want me no more. And the county don't even want me. I don't even get a foster parent. I don't go to detention center. I'm glad I'm not on the inside, but it still made me think like, wow, whoa, okay. Nobody wants me. Wow. And that just made it more easier for me to allow this young man to do the things he did to me. He would kick me out. There was times I would have to sleep outside at City Park on a bench because I had nowhere to go. So that just confirmed to me that something was wrong. I was just here just because I was here. Nobody loves me. God definitely can't love me, and I'm probably paying the consequences for something my mother did. That type of stuff played in my head. But
the enemy plays with your mind.
Oh my goodness. You have no idea. So I began to be a whole different person. And I began to be raised by the streets, literally. I had 2 crackheads. They were husband and wife. And I remember her talking to me about things in life and how I should be. Now, this is a female that she smoked some heavy crack. She's a hardcore, but she was teaching me a lot about life. She was teaching me a lot about life. And I thank God for her. I thank God for her. But I was street then. I was hardcore street. I sold drugs. You couldn't tell me nothing. I'm fighting you on sight. I had 6 miscarriages. You name it. I was doing it, man. I was really into it. I wanted to be the toughest and the baddest possible. That was an intense time. But I can tell you this. Never one time during that journey of survival mode did I pay attention to how I felt emotionally. I was on go. I was just on go. And there was no time to pay attention to how I feel. I can't tell you how I felt. I can tell you how I felt, when the judge said what he said to me, but I can't tell you how I felt when I slept on the bench. I can't tell you if I was scared. I can't tell you how I felt, when I was getting the mess beat out of me. I knew it wasn't right. But, there was other people around me that were going through that too. So it started like, okay, well, I know this ain't right, but other people are going through it. So it can't be that wrong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he's still with me. He didn't give up on me. He cheats on me. He does whatever he does, but he didn't give up on me. He's still right here with me. My dad, my mom, the world, he's right here with me. So if that's the least I got to go through, I'll go through it.
Wow.
Yeah. That was intense.
That is so powerful as a 15-year-old to be able to just run with the punches, and not to give up on yourself again, especially after you tried to do that to get attention. But now your mom don't want you, your dad don't want you. The courts gave up on you, didn't even try to give you the foster care. And the most you did was fighting. And you went in survival mode.
Automatically survival mode. A little bit of me was excited, right? Mm-hmm. I'm 15. I'm living on my own. Can't nobody tell me nothing. A part of me it's just me. My older sister didn't look for me. Aunts didn't come for me. So I got all the confirmation in the world from everything that I could even imagine that could have an effect on my feelings, that I'm not somebody to be cared for. How and why would I care about myself? But let me tell you one thing that's a fact. The entire time, power of God, power of God, the entire time, he made sure that I made it so that I could still be here today. You know, once I got out that relationship, and it was only because he went to jail, I went and lived in the shelter. I was 17, and I lied about my age so I could live in the shelter. And I stayed there for about 2 months, and I was in there with my older sister. She was there.
Wow.
And I didn't even know it. She was there. Yeah. But after that, I said, I'm going to be the best drug dealer you can find. I'm going to make the most money. Ain't nobody going to tell me nothing. I'm never going to live with nobody else again. And I accomplished that. I definitely accomplished that. And it was on go from there. It was on go. It was like, if I was a ticking time bomb, I should have blew up a lot of times. I contributed to a lot of destruction in my community. And I didn't sell a little bit of drugs. I sold a lot. I went to jail 5 different times. And I was just on go. And then finally, you know, my mother, I find out, is strong in addiction of crack cocaine. Didn't even know at the time when she gave me up, that's when it started for her. So that's what she was going through in life. You know, she was going through a man and addiction. And not that it's a legitimate reason, but it's a reason. Because I didn't have a reason before.
Right.
Nothing made sense to me before. It's like, what part of the game am I missing?
Right.
But now there's a reason. So I wind up at 19, I started having custody of my siblings off and on, until I permanently got my sister that's underneath me, the one after me, and then I wind up getting my younger brother permanently. Yeah. And even then I still was in the streets.
Now
you know,
you're trying to take care of your siblings.
And all I know is to provide. That's all I know. So I'm still in the street selling drugs. I'm still hanging out. I'm still getting into fights. I'm still doing shootouts. I'm still doing stick ups, you know, going to different cities in PA, just doing stuff that I really didn't even have to do. But nobody made me feel like I didn't have to. Because I knew I didn't have to do it. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I didn't do better because I didn't know better. Yeah, I knew a lot better. I knew that if you did this, this was going to happen. I knew the depths of it. You know, I knew that I could get a job. I knew that I needed to get my education. I knew those things, but I had nobody else telling me that. And one of the things, you know, I try to stress to people is the importance and the power of support from others. It's a necessity. It is such a necessity. It makes the difference. It makes the biggest difference between people being able to live and people dying.
Right.
And I didn't have that. Everybody that was around me was doing the same thing I was doing, you know. So it didn't really matter what I was doing because we was all doing the same thing.
All in line. Right.
All in line. It all made sense. It all made sense. So yeah, that was my journey of the beginning and the through. And then I became a mommy.
Now let's get into that. Well, before we get into that, can you share, you know, what was the most difficult moment you faced during that time? Besides just, you know, being alone and just trying to make things work on your own with no type of guidance, no type of empowerment, no type of anyone that is influencing you in a positive way. What do you feel like the most difficult journey? That's what it was?
The abuse, the physical abuse. The physical abuse, it was bad. It was really bad. And the humiliation that came with it. Because when I say I used to get the dog crap beat out of me, and I always fought back, you know what I mean? But it was bad. It was really, really bad. I got 6 stitches in my nose. You know, I went through some stuff. I went through some different experiences. And what's so crazy is even to this day, till today, I don't think it's affected me in a way where I can't live life. I think it was a moment that I went through and it happened. And for whatever reason, I had to go through that because it was a long moment, but I
Right.
never went through it again once I left that moment. It never happened again. It didn't become a cycle. It didn't become a cycle for me receiving it, but I can definitely say it became a cycle for me giving it in relationships. Yeah, I started being the abuser after
Wow.
a while. Yeah,
It
yeah,
bled.
physically.
It bled onto you.
It definitely did because at that time I didn't know how to argue. You know, in the world that I came from, you something happens that makes you upset, you react, and you're reacting physically. Yeah, you react. That's what was happening to me all the time. If I did something or said something that he didn't like, it wasn't a conversation. It was a straight jab. It was a busted lip. It was a black and blue eye. That's how it was, and it was that way from the time I was 15 to a little bit before I turned 18. Every day, some type of abuse every day. And he was Hispanic, so I would get the racial, abuse too. His father would hear him beat me, and they wouldn't do anything.
Wow.
They wouldn't come intervene. The brothers would stand there and watch. They wouldn't say nothing, But yeah, I became the abuser because I didn't know how to articulate my emotions verbally. I didn't have no clue how to do that. And plus, I had so much anger built up in me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I didn't even know how much anger
you had
in me. Like, it was like intense. Like, I know you hear 0 to 100. I was 0 to 5,000. 0 to 5,000. That's every time I went to jail, I got arrested for fighting. I stayed for other reasons, but I got arrested for fighting every time.
It was loaded into you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It absolutely did. And I liked that. I liked it that's how I was. I liked it that people knew
it was a power.
It was a power.
Yes.
And it was my power because all the other power that I gave to other people was taken advantage of. And all the other power that I had when I did have them, whether it was at 13, whether it was at 15, was taken from me. And I got power. And I'm going to use my power in every way, shape, or form. And I'm going to be on this high that nobody's going to take me off of, no matter what. Another man ain't going to put his hands on me. I'm never going to need nobody for nothing. If you're doing something I don't like, see you later. If you make me upset, I'm going to react. It was a level of power that made me feel like I was on top of the world. And that sounds sick sometimes, but that's exactly where it was.
It was your protection. That was the only protection you had, is having the power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it was a journey.
What was your turning point that led to the change? You had a path with a life filled with a whole bunch of different adversities, crime. Do you believe that, becoming a mother was a positive change? Or I'll let you share what was the positive change that led to who you are now.
Absolutely. My son saved my life. He saved my life. Coco, he saved my life. He will never understand. I found out I was pregnant. And then the very next day, his father was on a run for attempted murder. And I knew that before I even got with him. So, it didn't happen while we were together. I already knew that that's what he was on a run for. And I wound up getting pregnant. And the very next day, my house got raided. And I didn't know if they were coming for me because, I'm hustling. And I didn't know if they were coming for him because he's on a run. So, we're flushing. I'm going through it. We flushing stuff. He's trying to jump out windows. And he got arrested. And he asked me, please don't get rid of the baby. And I knew I couldn't sell drugs again because I didn't want to go to jail. But when I pushed my son out, and I know this is like a love story. When I pushed my son out of me, I never felt so in love in my entire life. The way that little boy looked at me, he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. I felt so incredibly in love. I feel like crying right now. I felt so in love with him. And I said that whatever I need to do to make adjustments, I'm going to do. Now, keep in mind, I can only make adjustments with the information that I know. Right. So in actuality, I wasn't really making the right adjustments. I was making adjustments to the extent that I was aware of. So I got a job. I didn't hustle no more. He got whatever he wanted. You know what I'm saying? I took very good care of him, but I didn't know what it was to actually be a woman. I did not have a clue. I had no clue of what it was to be a woman. I thought as long as I pay bills, as long as he can eat, I'm making him happy. That's all that matters.
Right.
That's all that matters. And every day of his life, I made him smile. And then, I wound up being with somebody else years later because his father got sentenced to 10 to 27 years in jail. He met his dad when he was 11. And that's a whole nother, conversation. But nonetheless, I met my daughter's father. And through our journeys and all our trials and tribulations, one thing I can say is he exposed me to what it meant to be a responsible woman in life. He didn't sell drugs. All he did was work. He has stability, overall stability. I never had a bank account. I never had a driver's license or a permit. I never had a debit card. I never filled out a W-9. I never filed taxes. I didn't even know what any of those things even were. But when I got with him and I wound up moving to New York, that was the time where it was like, okay, I'm not around all the other people. I knew I had to leave so I can do different things. Right. And now I'm learning. I'm learning my responsibility outside my children. And that consists of my responsibility to me. And it was slowly but surely I started learning. It didn't all happen at once. But I think the real turning point for me is, when we parted and I started going to school because I wanted to do something different. And I started working at a mental health hospital.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Man, oh, man. Man, oh, man. All the self-pity I've ever had for myself went out the window. Wow. Went out the window. It went straight out the window. The things that some people in life endure is out of this world. It is out of this world. I had even with all the things my mother did to me and I experienced through my journey, I had a great life compared to some of the people that were in there. How dare I take advantage of not being able to do better? How dare I not do better? How dare I not do the things that I'm able to do when you have people here that mentally are suffering literally and they cannot? And I'm sitting here just being a mom, not really taking the steps that's necessary. Nah, there was no way in the world I couldn't do that. And people at my job used to say, wow, the way you talk to people, the way you pour into people, your therapy sessions are different than anybody else. Like, you should start a podcast. And I would hear that all the time. And then COVID hit. And I wound up, not being able to work no more. And I took advantage of that. And I said, I want to give something back to people that I learned, that I call the aha moment. And I want people that are of color, that look like me and go through what I go through, I want them to understand that they really can create their own truth. And it doesn't have to be as difficult as we've made it if we stop normalizing things like depression, PTSD, anxiety. I didn't want to go into the diagnosing people because I wasn't specialized in that. I had experience in it, but I wasn't specialized in it. So I wasn't qualified to do that. I wanted to give the basic information for minorities in my community that look like me, that feel like me, that are exposed to things that I was exposed to. Because I'm not the only one that went through life like that. I know, plenty of people that have. I wanted to give them that information so that then they can see it and believe it for themselves and see how it works. Right. See how it actually works. Like, it's like knowing a secret that you just can't keep to yourself and you got to tell somebody. That's how it was for me. And I really, really wanted to do that. And God had different plans for me, baby. He had a whole different setup for me that I had no idea, none whatsoever. But that was my initial thing. I wanted to start a podcast so that I can just give out that information to people on things that they can do to have mental health awareness and really pour into themselves and making sure that they play an active part when it comes to their diagnosis.
Right.
You know, not just letting the doctor, you know, not just taking meds, you know, because a lot of times we do that. We expect the doctors to have answers.
Mm-hmm. But we don't do our own research. That is so true.
At all. And a lot of times, you know, yeah, we can say, well, I don't know where to begin. And that's cool. Yeah, I get it. But you got to begin somewhere.
Somewhere. Mm-hmm.
You got to begin somewhere because there's not one person in this world that knows how you feel better than you.
That's
there's
right.
not. So, yeah, that was the beginning for me.
Do you believe that working in the mental health facility inspired you to start your nonprofit?
Absolutely. Well, no, it inspired me. No, neither one, to be honest with you.
Okay.
My working at the mental health hospital, it inspired me and opened up that window for me to start my podcast. But me taking that journey to do the nonprofit, that is only and all the way contributed to God, child. Because when I tell you, that was not the idea whatsoever, but the chain of events and things that were happening, it led to that. I had no idea about anything about a nonprofit. I didn't know the who, what, when, where, and how. I didn't know anything. Like literally, I was a retard when it came to anything about that. I'm from the streets. I don't have no degree. You know, I don't know what all this stuff is about. I don't know the technical and the legality of anything. I just know going out there, getting the job done, and that's it. That's what I know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I that is all. That's attributed to myself and to God because He gave me directions and I followed them, and it just started happening. Like it just started playing out, and I just answered the call as it came. To be honest with you.
And let me tell you, that calling made you number one nonprofit in Berks County. Come on.
Number one grassroots, because I'm a grassroots nonprofit.
Grassroots. But the good thing about the obedience there is that's what led you to being number one grassroots.
Absolutely.
How does that feel?
Absolutely.
How does that feel that you really took initiative to listen to Him?
Words can't even really describe it. I feel like when I do describe it, I'm shortchanging it. But it is so incredibly rewarding. It is such an honor that I get to live life and see that my tragedies were only there for my triumph. That is the most gratifying feeling in the world because for so long, it was just my story. It was just a part of my story, right? It wasn't part of my story that came to something that's going to lead to greater. And the fact that I'm able to do that and God is blessing me in every way. Let me tell you, for the first 2 years, I didn't work. I did not have a job. Single mom. I didn't get child support. I didn't get cash assistance. I got food stamps, medical, and still was getting my unemployment. That's all I had. And people used to be like, Seleda, you got to work, you got to work. But I knew if I worked, I was going to give up on that. And I felt this passion so deep in my soul that I couldn't. I just couldn't. There was something in me that said, I cannot, I will not, it's not going to happen. I've had so many doors closed in my face. I've had so many, doubters. But the fact that God trusted this in me and then my community trusted me, man, listen, you can't tell me nothing. If I had to stop today, I'd still be satisfied because I was chosen. I was chosen. And that's a feeling that words can't explain. A lot of people go through things in life and they don't get to understand that nothing in life happens because they want something bad to happen. Everything in life happens for a purpose. And there's a good and bad. There's a balance with everything. You got to have bad to have good. You can't be strong and not know what it is to feel weak. You can't be happy and never endure sadness. How do you appreciate that good if you don't know what it is to have bad? It just doesn't happen like that. And I just so happened to have on my bed and stick in a fight and make sure that I listened to God when it was time for me to do my job. And again, we were talking about this earlier. I am not a religious person, but I have a strong relationship with God. I am not perfect. I allow myself to remain a student at all times. All times. And then I was blessed to meet somebody that really put me in a position to grow and learn. This man was he was the dad I never had. Never, and just because He gave me an office. I didn't pay rent there. He gave me a computer. I didn't pay for anything. He said to me, you go in and go ahead and be great. He didn't bother me. He allowed me to use a big agency and have this office there so I can give services to my dream. And he mentored me and he educated me. He didn't do no work for me. And he was not playing about that. I had to do the work. I had to do the work. So for a year, I was coming to an office giving services, counting change for gas. Making sure I can get to this office so that somebody else can get their, their services provided. Right. And nobody knew that, but I did it every single day. I didn't get paid for any of that. None of that. Nobody gave me a check. I didn't get paid. I didn't get nothing. And then after a year, he offered me a job to work at the same agency where I was providing my services for my nonprofit. So it was like, I get to do both things in one.
Wow.
And get a check and make some money, and make some good money, have some good insurance. I was able to move my kids out of the inner city. God is dope, yo. God is amazing. He is so incredibly amazing if you allow him to be. If you allow him to work in your life. If you allow him to be. And really, to be honest with you, life is beautiful, baby. It's people that make it ugly. It's people that make it ugly. But life really is beautiful if you allow it to be. If you allow it to be. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's not easy. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have people that are not supporting you. You're going to lose people. You're going to gain people. But one thing that you always get to keep is yourself and God. That is amazing. That is amazing.
Listen, I can't say nothing about that because those are some gems you is dropping. I love the faithfulness that God gives us. And sometimes when we go through our challenges and our struggles, we be like, why am I going through this? Why am I going through this? But I had to come to the realization that that's growth. I got to go through that in order to understand the next level where he's going to place me.
Say it now. Say it now.
The mediocre levels. How am I going to get through something higher than that when I get to the place? So I just love the journey that you've been through and that you've always put God first and not letting that hinder your journey of where you're at now. So let's talk a little bit about, the real deal. I love the name because you're definitely the real deal. But let's can you tell us a little bit about the nonprofit and, how it's influencing people and, how it plays a role on Reading, PA?
So the nonprofit is the Real Deal 610. Again, we're a grassroots nonprofit based in Berks County, servicing the inner city Reading, but our services are for anywhere in Berks County. We really specialize in 3 poverty multipliers. And for anybody that doesn't know what that means, a poverty multiplier is something that enhances poverty, that adds to, that contributes, right? So the 3 things that we categorize ourselves as mental health awareness, youth advocacy against gun violence, and returning citizens, which is reform. I think they all play a part in it. I think they all coincide with it. And that's why I thought all 3 of those were important for me to try to bring information to, because I have experience in all 3 of them as well. You know what I mean? And that's a big thing that we're facing right now in the inner city is youth and gun violence. So on the mental health aspect, I would hope to think, people are benefiting because I give authentic. I'm not sugarcoating anything. When you come in that office and you want to do some sessions with me, we doing some sessions and they're going to be intense. I'm not going to diagnose you. I'm not going to interfere with your prescriptions. I'm not going to do any of the above, but pour into you and give you support and understanding that you are absolutely phenomenal. One of the ways that we do that is called RAP, Wellness Recovery Action Planning. The who, what, when, where, how, and the what if. A lot of times we make these goals and we don't understand that if this goal doesn't happen, 9 times out of 10, it's going to put us in a place where we're either going to backslide or we're going to get frustrated or we're going to be in a state of depression. If we didn't prepare, when you have a goal, that's a beautiful thing, but sometimes that might not be your time. Doesn't mean you can't accomplish it. It just means there might be some more things that you got to learn. There got to be some more things you got to go through in order for you to be able to accomplish that. But we don't know that. We want what we want when we want it. We're human beings. It's a human thing. So then because we don't have a backup or something to fall back on or look forward to do other than, we get in this space of despair. Everything is just bad. It's havoc. So we do something where we do a what if as well, just in case this doesn't happen right now because it's not your time. What are we going to start working on next? I do a lot of youth advocacy, mental health awareness with kids. I had about 15 clients where their parents would bring their kids to me, and their parents are not allowed to be there. With their permission, their parents can't be there. And we do a 6-week session. The 6th session is with the parent and the child, and all the parent is doing is listening. They're not defending themselves. They're not making excuses. They're just listening to actually what they're saying. Actually what they're saying and seeing how that resonates. Just listening to what they think. Because one thing that's a fact, your experience with your child is never going to be their experience with you. And it's not supposed to be. It's really not. That's why you're the adult and they're the child. So that you can come to a place of understanding, sometimes we need to listen to our kids. Now, listening to our kids does not mean that we allow them to overstep their boundaries, because there's rules and regulations to this. And you're not going to skip the process when it comes to me governing my home. I can't allow you as a child to interfere in what I'm trying to do because you got something going on and you don't know how to communicate. What I can do is educate you and sit and listen to you and try to figure out where we can meet in the middle and make sure that I have an understanding and you have an understanding, whether we're agreeing to disagree or not. I heard you and you know that I heard you. And then with the youth advocacy, Lord Jesus, we've done everything. I go to crime scenes. It got a lot better in the past year, but I've gone to crime scenes of some kids that have been murdered. I've done advocacy in the high school for about 2 months. The middle schools, I've guest spoke in pretty much every middle school, except for Southern. We have something called the Real Deal 610 Teen Ambassadors, where it's kids supporting kids. That's it. There ain't no parent interfering. It's kids that can relate to kids. I can't understand what you're going through at 15 because I'm not living 15. Right. I'm not 15 no more. And the things that these kids have to face these days, back when we were younger, you had to go out and find trouble. These kids open the front door and trouble's there like, what's up? How you doing? What we doing today? You know? And then a lot of kids are growing up with their parents as well. And when you grow up with your parents, 9 times out of 10, they are not equipped. The parent aren't equipped with the moral capacity or the life experience to pour into you the necessary things, you know, and I'm not here to judge that and say that's a good or bad thing, but it's a thing. And it's the thing that we need to be aware of. You know, there's no reason for us to recreate the wheel, but we definitely need to start redirecting it. Because what's going on right now is out of this world. It is out of this world. So we have our teen ambassadors, and really they're the overseers of teen ambassadors because every kid is a teen ambassador. Every kid. They have to do a back to school event September 21st at 3rd and Spruce on South 3rd Street. They're going to do their back to school event for this year. I really don't have them do too much during the school year because their main focus is school. You're not doing right at school, you can't do nothing with me. It's just not going to work like that. But they've guest spoke. They've been on podcasts. They all have their business cards. You know, when it's time to do events, they got to give me a proposal. They got to let me know what their budget is. I wanted to, I wanted to create a leadership position. You know, we're always telling kids, you're a leader. You're a leader. Okay, well, what does that look like? What is that? If I'm not creating no leadership position, then how am I a leader? Because these kids right now want to see it to believe it. You can't just tell them and they're going to believe you. They want to see it to believe it. And then with reform, I have a gentleman that is my coordinator for returning citizens. He did 23 years on death row. He didn't get pardoned, but he did get early release. He ran Montgomery County Courthouse for pardons. He is on the Prison Society Board. He goes into jails and advocates. You name it, he does it. We're on the, we're stakeholders for the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus. We're starting to venture outside of Reading so we can start bringing more support and resources here. We're also on the Community Advisory Committee for the Department of Corrections of Pennsylvania. And I'm just a hardcore advocate. I don't play when it comes to my community. I give services every other Wednesday at the Halfway House and Adapt to the minimum 40 grown men that are trying to come home, to just pour into them and inspire them. I think the biggest thing that I do is I like to see people win. That does something for me. So I just try to pour into people, try to give them networks, try to give them resources. If you're a nonprofit and you're trying to do, I got all these resources. Let's make this happen for you. The more the merrier. So that's in just what I do for our nonprofit.
I love it. I so love it. Can you share what legacy you hope to leave for your children, and to broaden the community, especially with, the Real Deal 610?
My hopes and dreams are to be able to leave something in this city that is a replica of my moral capacity. It's a replica of what I believe we all deserve, and a place that people can come and get the accurate, right individual services that are equipped for them, and that they have the ability to be able to create their own truth, and they have the tools for that. I don't care if you want to be a bird. Let's start planning on how you can be a bird. As long as it don't got to make sense to nobody else. It just got to make sense to you, as long as it's not hurting you or somebody else. So that's what I really want to do for my city. I love Reading. I'm from Reading. I think that we have some amazing people and opportunities, and I want to be able to leave something that has some type of substance that people can come to and feel like they're empowered, and then they can start living their journey and living their truth. For my kids, I want them to understand that no matter what they are, they're special. I want my kids to understand and never forget how much I am deeply in love with them, and that no matter what, I am always going to be here and be their biggest fan. But what I believe doesn't have to be conducive to what they believe, and whatever they believe, I support. My son is my media manager for my nonprofit, so I'm starting to really try to incorporate my kids. My daughter was the president for 13 to 15 for the Teen Ambassador. I just now made her the coordinator, so she can be the overseer of everything. My youngest even has a part to play in it. So, I just want my kids to make sure they protect each other, they love each other, and they understand that humanity is an act of. It's not just a word.
Powerful. So powerful. Do you have a website that our viewers that's listening in can donate or contribute to anything to help this nonprofit?
Absolutely. It's www.therealdeal610.org. Again, www.therealdeal610.org. You can find us on Instagram at therealdeal610_. No, that's right. The Real Deal _610. I'm sorry. I got so many different platforms that I be forgetting. That's the Instagram. So you can stay up to date with the resources, the information, outlets, opportunities. We're always putting it on there. For our teen ambassadors, they are at Real Deal 610 Teen Ambassadors. If you have kids that you want to get them involved in stuff, they're posting. And for Facebook, it's just Seleda Simmons. So I'm constantly posting. Whether it's something to inspire others or information that I got from somebody else that they're doing, so other people know that there's other outlets out there. So yeah, let us know, man. We're here for the long run.
Okay. Just a few more questions before we close out. I do want to take a short commercial break to introduce our self-love seminar that we do have coming up for our viewers. I want you guys to tune in. We have an amazing seminar coming up. I Love Myself seminar coming up. And here is a video of last year's seminar.
I reaffirm my dedication to do the work, to unlock, live, and rediscover the purpose of what God has given me. I love me. Unapologetically.
To know that God is working. Now I want to show you something on the screen right now that God did for me. July the 5th. Ready? Now, I didn't get to tell you because I was saving some of this. But from 7 years old, so at the age of 20, I started praying for my husband. And I thought, rejection has been that thing in my life that I've been like, man, it seems like every time I turn around, somebody's telling me no. The word no, always no. And for the longest time, it was that thing that made me just fell back, right? And I'm like, nah, all right, look, it's not my time. I wasn't owning what was the
Search for it in my world around me. I get intimately connected to it. In January of 2023, this will resonate with some people. Also, call it. You get frustrated when you can't identify. We can know the truth and still lie.
Yes, so that is a recap of our third annual self-love seminar. Be sure to check us out on uncommonwomen.net to purchase your tickets. We have some amazing testimonies and stories that's going to hit the stage for this fourth annual self-love seminar that's going to be located in Reading, PA. I'm super excited about that. If you are just joining us, we are with Seleda, and listen, you're going to have to hit the replay because you done missed the whole season, the whole episode. Okay? It's phenomenal. She's powerful, spoke on her life in regards to the trials and tribulations of what she went through at a young age, you know, not being loved by her father, from being kicked out, and then transitioning into this woman to be a vessel for the city, the community, and be able to empower and encourage teens that may have been through what she's been through. But before we close out, there is two questions I do want to close out with. And the first question is, do you have any final thoughts or any comments that you want to leave with anyone that's listening that may have went through what you've been through, or may be experiencing anything that they don't know who to talk to, or just some encouragement words for our viewers?
Absolutely. I definitely understand the power of loneliness. I understand that you may be in a space right now where you feel like, regardless of what anybody else says, it doesn't apply to you. They don't understand what you're going through. It feels hopeless. It feels like it's a never-ending story. It feels like you're undeserving. It feels like this is just how it's supposed to be. And I'm definitely here to let you know that all of that is absolutely wrong. Sometimes in life, we have to endure pain so that we can endure happiness. I highly encourage, if you don't have a relationship with God, to start having one with God, or whoever your higher power is. I don't want to confine it to just God, because that's who fulfills me. Be able to start tapping into your abilities so that you can discover and realize who you really are, because you're not here by mistake, and you're not here just because. Whether you made wrong decisions, whether somebody else made wrong decisions, whatever the case may be, start forgiving yourself so you can start actually being happy in life. There is another side of it. There is another side of it, but you have to be willing to do the work to get there, and it is doable. If there's anything that we can do to support you in that process, we don't discriminate. I don't care who, what, when, and where. If we have to come to you, we come to you, but we're here. If you feel like nobody's there, I'm here to tell you we're here, and we'll give you undivided attention. Continue to be great. Understand how much you're obligated to other people, because we are all obligated to each other. And just realize how dope you really are, and start that journey of being dope, being your greatest.
And Seleda, because we know you dope, definitely dope, hands down. She is the plug, and she's dope. What makes you uncommon?
Goodness gracious, that's hard. That is hard for me to say, to believe it or not. I don't think that I'm uncommon. I think I'm not seen enough, because I think there's a lot of women that have the same capabilities that I have, but they haven't been able to tap into that to really exploit it and allow the world to see who they truly are. I'm honest. I'm loyal by default. And I'm a child of God. That's who I am.
And I'm going to add, you're loved. You're loved. No matter what you've been through, no matter what your past and circumstances are, you're loved. I loved you. I know when I hung up with you one day, I was like, I love you. You was like, yes, I love you. You are
God is good. I'm so proud of you, Coco. I love what you're doing, yo. If you're going to change some lives, yo, this is absolutely phenomenal. I wish more Black women would understand how much we can benefit each other, because we are absolutely phenomenal. Black girls rock hardcore.
Of
And I'm
course.
so incredibly proud of you. Continue to keep doing and being a vessel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the platform and sharing your
Thank you
story.
for having me.
And for those that's listening out, please pour into this nonprofit, therealdeal610.org. She needs you so that we can change the community, change the legacy, and make an impact on these children, the teen ambassadors, and everybody that's under her wing. Again, I love what you're doing. You have a powerful testimony, and I know this is just the beginning. This is definitely just the beginning for you. I'm planting that seed, and then we're going to manifest that, and you're going to be on, TED Talk before we know it. Okay?
I know that's right. TED Talking. Yes. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you,
Seleda, for coming out today. Thank you for our viewers for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. And if you came in late, listen, just hit the rewind button because she dropped some gems today. But most importantly, she shared her truth, her story, and what she's doing for the community. But without further ado, thank you, viewers, for tuning in. And please remember to stay uncommon.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you've been shacking up with us for a while and haven't subscribed to our channel, what are you waiting for? Please like and subscribe to Uncommon Woman so you won't miss another episode. And remember, don't let anything or anyone affect your peace. Good vibes and stay uncommon.